Okay, I guess we're ready to go here. This is Nothing But Worry with me, Lance Ash, and my wife, Bonnie Ash.
Hello.
And, well, let's start off with, I just watched the end of the week roundup with Brooks and Capehart on PBS News. And David Brooks is going on about, in the confirmation hearings for Pete Hegseth becoming Secretary of Defense, not one word was mentioned about it. He was talking about how it was all trivial shit, like should we purge woke from the military, and the important issue was upcoming war with China. And so, of course, now I'm worried about upcoming war with China. He's talking about sonic weapons that can knock out our nuclear capabilities or whatever. It's one more fucking thing to worry about. I really don't want to spend the rest of my life in a war situation and have the whole country upended. I don't know what I want to. All right, so what's your current worry?
I guess the upcoming weather, if we're gonna go through another storm or not. That's the most immediate thing, quite honestly. There's just so much to worry about. I mean,
Yeah. Well, we've had a fun week at work. The machinery keeps breaking, and they don't want to fix anything properly. Just nickel and dime things. And I don't, just crazy the amount of mail, and it's post Christmas. Let's see. I went out today alone and ran some errands. Stopped by Trader Joe's and got some of the peanut butter pretzels, which are really, really good. A little pricey, $2.56 for a bag, and I got 6 bags. And what else did I do?
we have one less errand to do in the next week or two. My dad was able to give away that giant TV he had.
Okay. Good.
They bought a new bed, and the guys who delivered the bed today
Mm-hmm.
took away the old bed for free, and he said, "You wouldn't happen to know anybody who wants 52-inch television, would you?" And they said, "We'll take it." So we don't have to go out there and help them with that stuff.
Okay, good. There is an old. I don't know if the TV's still in it, but on the road I work on, upside down on the side of the road for the last 2 weeks, there's been a TV cabinet. I assume that's what it is. And I think the TV's still in it. But why it's sitting there for 2 weeks, I don't know.
Because the county charges you for dropping off electronics and or furniture.
It's amazing. What do they expect you to do with it? You just if you can't afford to pay to drop the thing off at the county landfill or recycling facility, then you're just going to drop it off on the side of the road.
What gets me is Athens Clarke County handles our recycling, but here in Oglethorpe, we share land with the neighboring county, Clark, and we have a joint landfill on it, and then that landfill does not take certain things called construction and demolition fill. That goes to the landfill in Oglethorpe. But if we need to use the special facility in Athens, they charge us an $8 fee just to drop off stuff for recycling. And then they charge us a per item fee, which they also charge their county residents. Like TVs are $5. And I'm like, you would think that if they're recycling, the idea of recycling is to get something out at the other end. So you're the supplier. So if they're stripping these metal components for their parts and taking the chips out and all the other stuff which have value, then why do we have to get charged at our end when we're the suppliers? You know what I'm saying?
When I was a kid, the Oglethorpe County dump, as it was called then. Landfill is a fancy new term.
Still a dump.
It wasn't like today where, recycling and we separate this from that. It was just a dump. And you drove out there and you just threw the stuff off the back of the truck into this enormous, I don't know, maybe 7, 8, 9 acre dump. And there would be people out there picking through the garbage every single day. And families of people out there scrounging through the garbage for this and that. And it was amazing.
That's sad, actually. You think about something like that happening in the third world.
Mm-hmm.
Not here.
Is Haiti one of those places where they just have mountains of clothing that just...
Mountains of garbage. When it rains, everything rains into the waterways in the lowest common place. There are rivers that are just littered with plastic bottles and old cans and things like that. I was there in the 80s and in the 90s on 3 different occasions. And Duvalier had a policy, you kept things fucking clean, or else the Tonton Macoots would come get you. I mean, he's the one that had the everybody wears shoes policy and mandated that they have like $1 to $3 shoes. So at least they had some standards, and they would burn the trash at that point. But now there's nothing. It's just filth.
Was Aristide corrupt, or was he just unfairly thrown out of office?
Oh, it was a combination of things, but no, he was ousted. He was the democratically elected president, and he was ousted by the military.
But why?
Oh, he was what you call liberation theology proponent. He was a former Catholic priest, and he adopted the Catholic liberation policy, which was big in Central America back in the 80s, the Sandinistas and all those groups. The idea was that you would have hand in hand with communism and socialism. You had this Catholic theology subsect that said the poor must be taken care of, and we must collect our taxes and provide all the social programs, etc. And there must be equity. And it just completely went against everything that capitalism in America had. And that's why they interfered there. That's why there was interference in Haiti, because we both liberated Haiti from the military junta that took over Aristide, but behind the scenes we also played part in removing him because he was too communist, in our opinion.
Okay. Well, anyway, trying to think. I can't think of anything. Oh, my mother's in Montana now. I just called her. First time I've called her. They're 2 hours back from us. So, I usually call her every Friday evening, and since they're 2 hours back, it should be more conducive to me calling her, because I get up around 8:30, and when she was living here, she's usually already gone to bed or getting ready to go to bed. And she said it was
her at dinner time this time.
Yeah, she said it was a nice place, and it had not stopped snowing since she got there.
She's been there for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh.
So anyway.
Yeah, they sent us pictures of her this past week, and one scene was her new son-in-law helped button her pants up. They had these little snow pants you pull over your regular pants. Another scene, she's bundled in this little anorak with fur edge on the hat, and she's obviously cold. And then in the other, she is in a all-terrain vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of these crazy, like, crash cart sort of things so that it has roll bars that are in an X pattern, and it looks like it's truly four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
That's the way that the steering and everything was set up.
It's designed to look like a motocross helmet, all fancy with graphics on it. It's like, a 12-year-old boy's idea of what a fun little vehicle would be.
Yeah, it was splashed with advertising graphics, names, logos, things like that. But it reminded me more of a dune buggy than anything
Little bit,
I
yeah.
saw. I would think would be on the snow.
Dune buggies were a big deal when I was a kid, and everybody wanted one. And now that's all over with.
Yeah.
So let me think. What else is going on? Just been.
What else did you do when you were out today?
I
You had some
went.
books.
Yeah, I stopped by the library to look for that poetry book that I saw 30 years ago, and they didn't have it. I got some free paperbacks just for the hell of it, and most of them were shit. I'm gonna donate those tomorrow. I hope if I get a chance to go out. Went to Trader Joe's and went to CVS to pick up some medicine.
Walla Books.
Went to Walla Books, which is a little like one of these used bookstores where you trade in books, and then that goes towards a discount on your next purchase of used books. And they didn't have very much in there, but I did get a book of parodies from 1990, written. Well, I don't know if it's written, but edited by Henry Beard, who was one of the original dudes at National Lampoon, and it's pretty good. What else? Oh God, what else did I
You had to
do?
go to your dad's today.
Had to go to my dad's today to pick up a knife that my Uncle Jimmy gave me when I was 16, I believe. Maybe even younger than that, now that I think about it.
When you told me you were going to get a knife, I thought you meant a pocket knife. And you walked in with this foot-long blade and
Yeah.
a big carrying sheath and everything.
Yeah, I think my dad... I didn't know what happened to it for years and years and years. And when my dad was living over in that townhouse, I was walking through his place one day, and I looked in the closet, and there it was. And I can only assume that back when I was drinking and I was living with them, they took it away from me and hid it. That's the only thing I can... why he had it. My parents are the kind of people that if they have something long enough, they begin to think that it's theirs, and it's always been theirs. And when you say, well, that belongs to me, no, I had this since I was 5 years old. So anyway, I got it back from him, and
Yeah.
I'm going to give it to my son on his birthday in March. What death?
There was a death. They mentioned a death
Yeah,
in the family.
my uncle died. He was 87. My father's sister's husband died. And God, I just can't believe everybody's getting so old. And what else did I do while I was out?
Was Florence the oldest of the kids?
I don't know. I think the reason I don't think so, because I think it went boy girl boy girl. So she would have been the second oldest, I think. But
I
you know,
remember her divinity candy.
I remember when Reed was
God.
little. It was the family Christmas get together was down at her place in Washington, and I was determined to go and show off our baby daughter
She was
to the
9
family.
months old.
Yeah, and it was dense fog, and from our place down to where they live in Washington is like a 45-minute drive, and Bonnie is just
I was horrified.
the whole way down there.
It was worse than pea soup. And we used to live in Germany where the fog was just right there between the moor and the North Sea. And this was horrible, horrible fog.
But we got down there, and I got to show off my kid to everybody.
Oh, your Aunt Florence. She went right to your Aunt Florence. You remember that story?
Yeah.
and she wouldn't go to your mother at all, and your mother's like, but Florence was just so sweet to read.
Yeah.
I remember you showing me around Aunt Florence's house, and she goes, and you said, and come and look at this, and they had enclosed the garage, and you had all these good memories of all the stuff that was in there, and all the posters the kids have had on the wall, and
Yeah.
lava lamps, and because those kids were what, 10, 15 years older than you.
About 10 years older. They were all very much 70s kids. I was too, but they were teenagers in the 70s, which is a very different thing. I've mentioned this before, I think, but there's a peculiar optical illusion in my aunt's backyard
Oh yeah.
because it's like a little regular little subdivision, old subdivision, maybe 60 years old. And in the backyard slopes down to a barbed wire fence. And on the other side is a pasture that goes way down to, I guess, a creek or something, and then goes back up on the other side. And in the distance, there's like a pine forest. Something about the way that it appears when you're standing in the backyard looking down into the woods on the other side, it looks like a painting or some sort of photograph. It doesn't look real. And I have been meaning to go over there and take a look at that again for years, and I'll never be able to. Of course, by the time I go over there, if I ever did get to go, it would be all different now. It was really creepy. The unreality of it. I always liked going, when I was a little kid, going over to some teenager's place because there was all these cultural relics that I had no understanding of. We had a lady at our church, and in the basement of their place, her son had set up like a teenager's crash pad. And they had a pool table, and it was all dark down in there. And he had a poster of the Coneheads on the wall, and it creeped the hell out of me. I didn't know what that meant, what they were.
You led such a sheltered life.
Yeah.
I mean, your parents listened to nothing but country music on WNGC, didn't they?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I remember a number of years ago, the first Prius we had was in an accident, and I had to go pick it up from the shop. And the guy was so proud they'd been able to save part of the back panel of the Prius. He goes, "Look, I even saved your Black Sabbath sticker." And your dad was with me. And he said, What's Black Sabbath? As if it were something evil. And I said, well, it's a rock band from the 70s. They're still going on. And I said, but you'd probably know them, know the title from an old horror flick out of Britain. And I forget who was in it.
It's,
I mentioned it.
Vincent Price.
Vincent Price.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, yeah, that was great. And the guy who had done the restoration on the car just rolled his eyes like, oh my God, this guy doesn't know who Black Sabbath is.
Yeah, and I don't know. It would be like me not knowing who Wham was. I had no interest in the music, but I did know who they were.
Did your dad even know who the Beatles were?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, he wasn't that sheltered then.
Yeah,
so your mother, on the other hand, I wonder if she knew.
I don't know. They were just culturally incurious about everything. I didn't want to be greedy, but I wanted to ask for that spaghetti western box set back from him that I gave him.
Oh, we gave all that away. A couple of years ago, we gave Lance's father a movie night thing. It was like popcorn in a bucket kind of thing, prepare, and it was thematic, for, I guess it was his birthday, and we gave him a collection of some DVDs and things like that. So he could have, he loves to watch TV. And we gave it to him. He said, "Oh, thank you, thank you." And later on, he goes, "I don't own a DVD player anymore." And we were just blown away.
Well, it was one of those things you get at Walmart out of the bin, like a buck or two for DVDs,
But
and it
we've
was like,
gone through our collection and gotten him all the stuff out of our collection too.
yeah. Well, the
So
thing I
there's
got it
probably
from
a good
me.
dozen movies.
I think it was 20 spaghetti westerns on a couple of discs, and I dabbled in it, and then for some reason I gave it to him. I thought I just let him borrow it, but then anyway,
Um,
But then now that I think, I mean, I'd really like to. If I had time, I never have time to watch any movies though. So, but it'd be cool to be able to have time to watch a bunch of old shit like that.
we could probably download some of this stuff.
I don't. What does downloading entail? Eating up a lot of memory, right?
No, baby. No, no, no.
Would we be able to watch it on our big TV if we did that?
Yes, sweetheart.
Well, would it be free?
It could be if I used a VPN.
How much is that going to cost?
Don't worry about it. I have
No.
access.
No. I don't have time to watch anything. You know,
I asked for something, it's stuck in a Dropbox, and I'm gonna pick it up.
I know something I wanted to talk about. We watch Internet Today with Ricky and Elliot a lot, and usually our politics exactly tally with them, but they're totally against the ban on TikTok, and I think it's naive for them to take that position because, like I said, we are already at war with China one way or another, and if Temu can do all that it can do by reprogramming your phone, God knows what they're up to nefariously through TikTok and whatever else. So, and this whole attitude, this whole notion, well, we're having fun using our TikTok. We don't really care about national security. We don't care about encroaching authoritarianism as long as we get to have fun. You're taking our fun away. I'm sorry, tough shit. Find some other kind of way to have fun.
I'm not as hard on this issue as you are. The way I see it is you give up a lot of your privacy every time you surf the web. And, Google, Facebook, all of these are just ad companies. They're selling ads. That's what they do. And we give away our data in a variety of different ways, whether it's what we select or what we don't select, our searches specifically. We volunteer information on our own blogs, Lance. Any social media that's out there, our pictures are available online. I have a couple of things that I do to check the dark web to see if our data's been stolen. Those through services that we have. And I try to be reasonable and not put too much in and out. Like our phones, we generally keep them offline. We don't download apps on our phones. Our phones are very limited, the cell phones. But we already give away so much data.
Well,
And this whole thing about, they're taking our information, etc., we put it out there freely. I'm not quite sure what more TikTok is doing over any type of ad. They're already gleaning data from your phone for a variety of things.
yeah, but the thing is, one of the arguments that the Internet Today guys made was, well, TikTok's not the only one. There's all these other ones that do it too. It's stupid. It's like saying, well, there are 15 criminals on the street. Why are you arresting just this one when there's 14 still left out there? Isn't it better to have removed at least one threat than just to go, oh, well, if you can't remove all the threats, then just might as well just leave them all out there. It's silly.
I agree about whataboutism. I'm so sick of everybody going, but what about this? But what about that? It was actually part of the Russian propaganda during the USSR.
And
Use
plus,
that argument.
right. And plus, this notion that, well, it's free speech. Well, you still have free speech. I mean, just because, the local newspaper that printed your letters is going out of business doesn't mean you've lost your freedom of speech. And people are making money on TikTok. Well, they can find some other way to make money, I'm sure.
I really honestly don't give a shit because you and I are so far removed from this. Several years ago, after my sister died, a cousin of mine reached out and found me through Instagram, no less. After I had not spoken to that side of the family for God knows how long. And so we began an exchange back and forth trying to get to know each other again. And she sent me a TikTok video. And I said, Tanya, I gotta tell you, this is the first time I've ever watched a TikTok video. And she's like, oh my God, it's daily entertainment for me. And she's in her 50s, same as I am, and she's really into it and gets a lot of both entertainment and updates. I mean, she lives in Texas, so anytime there's a political thing, she would get it on TikTok, some sort of alert, whatever the subject was.
Are the videos like these shorts that I see, where you have nowhere to pause them, you have nowhere to fast forward,
you can
they just go
pause.
looping round and round?
You can pause them.
Like that cat video you sent me. It just goes round and round and round, and if you click off of it, it starts over. I don't like that.
I know. Look, they said it was a really bad move for Biden to have signed this legislation because it really pissed off a lot of young people, and he's right. But it's more than that. It feeds into the whole bread and circuses. If you want to make the masses happy, give them what they want.
The young people should be pissed off about the Trump administration going to come in and reinstate student debt. The young people should be pissed off about the Trump administration coming in and wanting to clamp down again on all
pornography. I mean, think about all the incels in the MAGA movement. They're going to hate it if pornography ends up getting highly restricted. And that's part of Project 2025 and the 47 agenda. And it's also, they're talking about going beyond just the abortion restrictions. Project 2025 is talking about, well, we need to see about removing access to birth control to those people who are not married. Or certain types of birth control, which are actually abortion, in our opinion.
Well, they want birth control banned for anybody, married or not.
I know.
There's this crazy...
Riverful?
There's this crazy Christian retreat up in the North Carolina mountains called the Wilds. And the school we went to would drag us off there every so often. And they were hardcore, crazy Christians. And their whole attitude towards us being teenagers was just hateful. And if you didn't conform to their vision of Christianity, you were scum. And there was this guy up there, one of the people who worked there, one of the counselors, I guess you call him, and he was ranting one day at one of the sermons or lectures or whatever, and he said, there are Christian couples out there who are too selfish to have children. Too selfish to have children. As if your mission in life is just to produce as many offspring as possible.
It's called the quiverful movement. They want a quiverful of arrows, a quiverful of children.
I think it's selfish.
I think it's selfish to have so many that you can't take care of your children.
It's selfish to have to produce offspring just for the hell of it.
And it's selfish to produce children until they are unviable. And that's what happens. After a certain point, a woman's eggs, a man's sperm, it produces children that just aren't healthy. I mean, look what happened with Sarah Palin having a kid late in life. We know what the risks are. We have options for avoiding these things. So have your children before the age of 35. Reduce. I mean, I don't.
This was the same guy at this place who apparently he had had two small children who both died, like within a short time of each other. And he said, people will ask me, aren't you bitter at God because he took your children away? And he said, no, I'm not, because they were never my children in the first place. They belonged to him to do as he pleased
What
with.
the hell?
What a hateful... You're a traitor to your own children. Fuck you, and fuck your God that would do such a thing. I just don't have any use for these people.
I remember reading an article about this family called the Dugars, I think.
Yeah.
It was one of those quiverful families that had a reality TV show. They were religious. And in their house, they had like 16 or 18 kids. And in their house, they had bathrooms that were like the bathrooms you'd have at a high school. Multiple stalls, multiple sinks. They had to accommodate so many kids. They had stalls? What the hell?
Yeah.
They had 4 or 5 washing machines and dryer sets?
Yeah. Well, I think the world is going straight down the toilet, and this, I don't know. And you fantasize about, well, what if I lived back in the 50s, or what if this, all that's nice, but I still couldn't do without modern medicine, and I've become addicted to modern communications and so forth. I mean, imagine, I was thinking about, sometimes you romanticize about old TV shows, but when you really think back on them, they were pretty lame. And the ads, the commercials you'd have to sit through, they were horrible back then. They were just insultingly stupid. Oh my God.
I was just thinking about all the ashtrays that were everywhere back in the 50s.
Yeah.
You walk in somebody's house and you have the obligatory ashtray.
Whenever
And worse, it was one of those giant ashtrays.
Whenever we went to a relative's house, the smoking was just ubiquitous. It was taken for granted. I'll tell you something interesting, though. Last week, I don't know why this popped up. Oh, what the hell was it? I can't remember what came first, but anyway, there was a trend in the 50s for what was called at the time sick humor. And Lenny Bruce was part of that, and amazingly, Jonathan Winters was part of that. And it was like a new kind of comedy, a little edgier.
Was Bill Cosby one of those that started off that way?
He was part of that generation of comedians, but I don't know if he was specifically
got clean later?
lumped in. Well, the sick comedians weren't necessarily not clean. It was just, we'll make little morbid jokes about topics that people didn't normally talk about previously. But, so, anyway, first of all, that was in the 50s, and I think part of it was a generation who'd been through World War II and were now ready for something a little bit more outre. But, first of all, it's interesting to note that the commonplace notion of the 50s is that it was a time of conformity and sterility, but the fact is there was a lot of stuff outside the bounds even back then.
Well, they had that, what was it, Marlon Brando movie with the guys on motorcycles?
The Wild Ones.
Yeah, and then they had the James Dean movies, and so there was something that said there is an outside element, and we're going to look at those things. I think a lot of it may have come from the fact that World War II, you had all these men in trenches together, basically, and they're sharing all the stories, all the risque jokes, and, exchanging pinups and all that sort of thing. I think that a lot of people kind of got used to that maleness, that kind of rawness of humor.
Well, the other thing I was going to say in connection with that is Mad Magazine got started in the 50s. And but the thing is, in addition to Mad Magazine, you had all these Mad Magazine knockoffs. And I didn't realize just how many there were. So, and all of this stuff was considered puerile at the time. You know, you had an adult generation that was above all that.
Okay.
But really, there was a lot of stuff in the 50s that, because you had
The Beatniks.
the Beatniks, and you had a lot of jazz and stuff, and
You remember us watching that movie Bell Book and Candle when the kids
Yeah.
were little? They're in the jazz club
Yeah.
and they're smoking pot and they're
well, they weren't smoking pot.
it was kind of implied. And again, in Sweet Smell of Success, you had a similar club scene, and the girls going out with a guy who is of a different race, isn't it? And they were like
No.
planning. What was it? She's going out with somebody who was unacceptable.
The plot of the movie is Burt Lancaster is a very powerful newspaper columnist based on Walter Winchell, and his little sister is dating a jazz musician played by Martin Milner, and it's the real Chico Hamilton quartet or group or whatever, and Martin Milner's playing a guitar player with the band, and
Tony?
Tony Curtis is an up-and-coming press agent who wants to get in on, who wants to make a career, and he sort of does evil, sleazy favors for Burt Lancaster, and Burt Lancaster wants Tony Curtis to break up the couple because he doesn't want his daughter, he doesn't want his little sister dating this jazz musician, and that's the plot of the movie. And Burt Lancaster, who usually plays some sort of like a good guy or some tough guy, for him to be playing this evil manipulator is really different. And do you remember the movie Diner?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I can't remember which of the characters has been out of town for a while, but he comes back. I guess he's been away at college. He comes back, and he and I think it's Steve Guttenberg they go to the movies, and this younger kid leans forward and he says something to them. He quotes off this big speech, and then the guy looks like, what the hell was that? And Steve Guttenberg says, that's from Sweet Small Success. These younger kids, they're even crazier than we were.
Cat's in the bag and the bag's in the river.
That's a good line. There's a lot of good lines in that movie.
Yeah.
Tony Curtis is good in that. He's this little Weasley guy.
He's trying to get clients. In order to get clients, they got to know he's got access.
Right.
And he's got to be able to put their name in with the gossip columnist.
Right.
Who Burt Lancaster's playing. So he's got to do him favors, so that Burt Lancaster will do him favors.
There's
Not to his clients.
there on the Frank Zappa album Uncle Meat, there's a track called "If We'd All Been Living in California," and it starts off with Frank Zappa talking to the band. He says, and if you want to get your name in the magazine, he wants $500 a month. So that was just a thing back then, that you would pay somebody to get your name out there.
On the radio, they called it payola.
Well, payola was a thing to play your record.
Exactly. Like I said, on the radio.
And the thing is, those early couple of Frank Zappa records, they are directly descended from what I was just talking about, the sick humor of the 50s.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You know, and so it's the same thing as when we were being raised in the 80s by these Christian nuts. They're like, everything was fine in this country until the hippies came along. You're full of crap.
But you could walk around Rome today and see penises drawn on ancient buildings from 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
People have been making dick jokes and references forever and a day. I mean, what is it, the Moche culture in South America? Was it?
You're right. Yeah.
They
Pottery.
had the pottery that showed people in different sexual positions. And it could have just been humorous, it could have been instructive, who knows? But it was raw, it was raunchy. It's what played to the masses.
Everything was fine until the colleges started teaching evolution and socialism, and it turned people's minds away from Jesus.
Damn
You
hippies.
are full of shit. You had Tijuana
Tijuana
Bibles back in,
yes.
God knows how old those are, 1920s, 30s.
Yeah, but it was before then. I mean, what was the book I read about the Chicago brothel in the 1800s? They had this one brothel that promised you could get anything you wanted. And they had Asian girls, they had black girls, they had Indian girls, because everybody wanted a little bit of everything, you know? And they would bring them out on display. You walk in and, okay, what do you want tonight? Everybody has always been into this shit, you know?
Yeah, well,
I mean, my God, we have found fucking dildos throughout archaeological excavations.
and another thing, it's like, oh, well, marijuana comes up from Mexico and it's corrupting our youth, but pain pills and liquor, that's fine. Because it's, upper class suburban housewife, she needs to get
And
pilled up every day.
Every indigenous population around the planet has found some way to either get drunk or stoned off of whatever was available locally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God. So, I listened to Shostakovich's last string quartet, number 15, I think it is, this week in the car, and it's really, really good. I wish I could afford. I've had this CD by Miles Davis for years. It's a live recording of the second quintet called "Cooking at the Plug Nickel." What I didn't know for years is that's just a sampling of this engagement they did, which is some people consider the pinnacle of jazz of all time.
Is this one of those where you can hear the audience every once
It's
in a while?
notorious. It's a notorious recording because there's a guy in the audience who is running his mouth the whole recording, complaining about what they're playing. And when they play something, there's one song that ends. He liked what they did, and he goes, "Well, it's about time." You'd think they'd edit him out.
You think, but
Anyway, if I had the money, I'd get this. They released the whole, like 4 discs. Like,
were there times that Miles would play with his back to the audience?
always, he couldn't stand interacting with the audience or making nice
yeah.
with anybody. He would just come out and play. He wouldn't introduce the songs. He wouldn't talk to the audience. He just didn't give a shit.
You found a T-shirt the other day.
Yeah, there's a T-shirt I want. There's T-shirts I want actually. One is the names of the 5 guys that were in the second quintet. And the other T-shirt is Mark and Jez and Sophie and Hans, the 4 main people in Peep Show. I'd love to get that T-shirt too, because nobody in America would know what the hell that means. I doubt anybody in America would know what the first T-shirt means.
Oh, no, it's much more common, I think. Is Herbie Hancock still alive?
He's still alive, and I think
Wayne
Ron Carter's...
Shorter?
No, Wayne Shorter's dead. I think Ron Carter's still alive too. And that's it. They're both like 80-something. Tony Williams died when he was like 42.
Yeah. Jesus.
Had a heart attack while waiting to see the doctor.
Fuck.
Yeah, died in the waiting room, I think.
Were you with me that day that Dr. Van Dyke said, take her over the heart doctor right away?
Mm-mm.
No. I went to the endocrinologist, and my heart was so fucked up. He goes, how long's this been going on? I said, this time about 2 weeks. He goes, how long has it been going on overall? I said, about 10 years. He said, excuse me a moment. Goes out. He says, to the nurse, you get the cardiologist on the phone. You tell me when he's on the phone. He takes the call with the cardiologist. He tells him the symptoms. He goes, "Can you drive?" I said, "Yeah, I drive myself over here, you know." And he said, "You go to the heart doctor?" The heart doctor, I went in, and they said, "You're going to the hospital. Your heart is messed up." So, yeah, I had problems for 10 years. And it wasn't until I was in the doctor's office with a problem that they finally got around to seeing me. I'd been in the ER and waited so long they didn't bother to even see me. I'd walked out of the ER several times.
Well,
Yeah, I can believe somebody would die in the doctor's office.
well, speaking of health problems,
How are you?
I'm going bald, and
What did
So-
I recommend this week?
you recommended that I wear a beanie.
Keep your head warm.
Well, anyway, so I go over to my dad's place today, and he's been going bald for years. And I took a good look at him, and he doesn't look any balder than he has for the last 15 years. So I
So
thought,
maybe you'll reach a certain level.
you reach a certain level, and then you stop going bald.
At least you hope so.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of which, I gotta cut your hair this weekend.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Oh, God. It seems like all these old guys that go bald, they get scabs and sun damage on top of their heads, and it makes them look even older.
Oh my God. So I'm watching the Jimmy Carter funeral last week, and Biden is up there giving his speech, and he's leaning down to read from the speech because, you know, he's not as frisky as he was. And every time he leans down, you see through that little bit of hair he has left, he had age spots on top of his head. These age spots were like giant freckles, and they just stood out like a sore thumb. That was an interesting funeral, by the way. I don't normally do funerals, but, you know, growing up here and that sort of thing, I was curious. And I noted to you earlier this week, it was completely different than the funerals they have around here. This funeral was to honor a person and their life and their legacy. The funerals here are a way of getting you into the church.
Yeah.
What is that thing you said?
It's a tangible. There it is. The preacher gets up there, and it's like here's the dead body. Everybody take a good look. This is death. This is a reminder that you are going to die too. You'll be in this position soon one day. And when that happens, you don't want to go to the wrong place. So let me take this opportunity to milk this man's death to induce you to join the church and start,
Out of fear of fucking death over something that's fucking imaginary, over something that's inevitable, that everybody has to go through, and they take advantage of the situation.
The thing is, it's just caveman thinking. It really is.
Yeah, at some point or another, the caveman looked out and he saw the storm outside the cave and said, "Ooh, this is scary. There must be something up there making all this racket." And eventually we create these gods of thunder and lightning, and the god on the mountain becomes the god of the mountain Sinai, and then it becomes this crazy monotheistic bullshit, and now we got Jeebus crap everywhere.
in the Conan the Barbarian movie, when Conan and Subadai are talking, and they're talking about which gods do you pray to, and Conan says, "Ha! Crum laughs at your four winds." Well, that was a great line. Well, we need to be wrapping it
Yeah,
up,
we do.
because I got to make this video and post it and get on with my weekend.
And I gotta grab a bath and get to bed. I'm old.
Oh yeah,
Tired.
yeah. I'm getting really hungry.
There's black beans and rice left. You can eat that.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, anything else?
That's it, sweetie. I love you.
Love you too.